You are listening to the Primetime Podcast with your hosts, Bryant Shizzle and Jake Jorgensen. Hello, everybody. Welcome into the show. I am here, all on my lonesome. No Jake again. He might have won this week, but I'm still pretty sure that he's ducking us. Dude can barely break 100. Jake is, a little tied up this week, under the weather. He's having a good time right now, so he took another week off. I'd be under the weather too if I was winning, scoring less than 100 points. Couldn't be me. 106 baby. Let's go. So no Jake, and it seems like the boys in the league are pretty busy tonight too. A lot of the guys I reached out to were unavailable as well, so I hope all of your evenings are going well. But alas, the show must go on. The rewind must happen. So I'm here. I will probably keep it a little shorter tonight. I'll do my best. But I guess we can get into it in a second. I have one announcement to make that I will try to remember to put in the chat as well. But if I forget, then all of you who listen to the show have been rewarded. The trade deadline is this week Saturday, 11/22, right? It is 3 days from now at 11:59 p.m. So you make trades on Saturday, but as soon as midnight hits, it is dead. Okay, so if you're Brandon and you're tanking, get your trades out the door, and if you're trying to compete like some of us, good teams, then well, I guess the same thing. Send your picks out, I suppose. So wanted to make that announcement. I'll try to remember to put it into the group chat, but I might forget because I'm recording a show here and I got a lot of stuff to do. So, anywho, we can work our way into the matchups this week. We will start with the biggest blowout, which was all right, Nick and Greg. Greg got blown out of the water, and not necessarily because he had a bad week. Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, George Pickens, and George Kittle. A lot of George going on there. Those guys just, they cooked. Everybody else was honestly kind of bad, but Josh Allen had over 50 points. He was the top scoring quarterback. George Kittle was a dog. George Pickens, oh my God. Yeah, this was an excellent performance from Nick. And Greg was okay at best, right? 19 points isn't typically going to do it for you. The Chargers defense getting -2 does not help. The Jags had their way with the Chargers. Shout out Lane, your one happy moment of the week. ETN was pretty good, and other than that, it was kind of just average across the board. Brock Bowers, Kyren, and Jahmyr Gibbs, you're fine with, but the wide receivers, Troy Franklin was fine. Jalen Waddle was okay. You'd hope to see more, but it is what it is. Baker was pretty disappointing. Bills aren't the best matchup. Yeah, it just didn't work out for Greg. Nobody really had that big boom. Gibbs was the closest, but you kind of expect somewhere around there for Gibbs. The bench was fine. Tracy was the only real light. It's funny. I did not realize he had the Jags defense on the bench. Greg, not that it would have done anything for you, but that's a 15.5 point swing right there. So I don't even know why you have the Jags defense. Oh, I see. Arizona and Tennessee next week. All right, well that'll do it. So yeah, tough for Greg there. 5-6 is not really where you want to be. Big for me. Shout out Nick. Good win here, dude. Yeah, 5-6 isn't where you want to be right now, but you are still currently in playoff contention, so it's okay. Nick's bench, Monungai was fine, Ferguson was fine, and Javonte was fine. Being able to bench Javonte Williams, luxury that like 90% of fantasy teams just do not have. Now Swift, it looks like, did get banged up in that game. oh, this is the same injury that he's been dealing with. So I would expect he'll play. So I don't know, between him and Monungai, it's been kind of even. When Monungai scores, you're probably going to be happier with him, but I don't know if you can really count on him to score that often. Other than that, Ian Coleman, I hear, is going to be back this week after his impromptu benching for disciplinary reasons. So I guess that's good. You're not going to play him anyways, but hey, that's cool. DeMercado out for week 12, so you'll have to find a different option. I don't know if DeMercado is really worth rostering, but maybe. I mean, there's not much out there, so what can you do, I guess. There's a few guys on Nick's team that are like Kayshon Boutte. I hear Bucky might be back this week. Or if not this week, then probably next week. So that would be big for Nick, because getting DeAndre Swift out of there and putting Bucky Irving in there is disgusting. Yeah, that's good to see. So, well, good to see for Nick, not for anybody else. So I guess we'll move on from this matchup. Good win from Nick here. Moves on to 9-2, asserting himself as first in the league. For the reasons that I'm about to share. Oh, nope, never mind. We're going to Lane and Lemons first. I think Lemons just edged out Lane here. Oh. So, Lane's team was pretty disappointing. Lemons' team was very solid. This is a big weekend for Lemons, and I'm not talking about his wedding. I'm talking about this fantasy performance, baby. Now we are talking. Yeah. Congrats, Mike. On the whole marriage thing, I'm sure you'll have just as good a time as all of us other men. Hope Bree didn't hear that. Yeah, it was a great wedding for those that weren't there, and for those that were there. Shout out Jake. Yeah, it was a good time. So a better time was this fantasy matchup though. Dak Prescott, 31 points, 4 touchdowns, cooked the Raiders. Debo cooked. James Cook, cooked. Nice. Ray McBride, top scoring tight end of the week, 30.5. The rest of it, you can kind of close your eyes and pretend it didn't exist. 9.9 for DK Metcalf is actually pretty good for what he's been lately. And Genty was disappointing, and you're really happy that disappointing on a week like this, because usually he's good, but for whatever reason, every now and then he just does nothing. I mean, the dude got like 6 carries. Doesn't say. I want to say it was definitely single digits, and I think he got like 6 carries in this game, which is funny because it says receptions there too. But yeah, I want to say it was like 6 carries for 7 yards or something stupid like that, right? It was not much, and I guess the Raiders just didn't feel comfortable running the ball in this game, so they decided to throw it. I mean, he got 6 catches, which saved his fantasy day because that's 2/3 of his points. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you brush it off. It's Genty. You keep playing him. Not like Lemons has too many other options. On Lane's side of the ball, Jordan Love continued to be disappointing with no wide receivers to throw the ball to. Amon-Ra was bad. Is this 2 weeks in a row? No. Okay. This is significantly more disappointing than last week. Did I say he had 16 targets? Oh, no. 16-9. Okay. 12 targets, though. Oh, boy. Only caught 2 of them. Wow. I did not realize that. Philly's been locking people down lately. You brush it off. He plays the Giants next week. It's Amon-Ra. You're fine. Stephon Diggs, great game. Jaylen Warren was having a pretty good game, and then he got hurt. And Kenneth Gainwell took over and was a beast. Speaking of Kenneth Walker, welcome back. You know what? Let's give Kenneth Walker some booms here. Boom, 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 boom. Is this the best week of his season? Ooh, it's darn near close. It's close to it. Kenneth Walker may or may not be back. He got 16 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown. He had 3 catches for 44 yards on 3 targets. McDonald is saying that he's earning more opportunities. This is exactly what you want to see heading into the fantasy playoffs. And unfortunately for Lane, he will not be there. So Kenneth Walker, sneaky trade for a target for us contenders. He if Lane doesn't listen to this show, you might be able to get him a little on the cheap because I don't know if he's really keeper material. What he's done this year. I mean, Amon-Ra, and maybe he is because Lane's team is trash. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe J.K. Dobbins, but probably not. It depends on what they do this offseason. Yeah, all right. Maybe Lane is keeping Kenneth Walker or Jaylen Warren. 7th round. Yeah, I mean, he's probably worth that next year. Who knows? That's a tough situation to be in. And it was a tough week for Lane. Nobody on the bench really outperformed anybody. Like I've been saying the past few weeks, I think Lane's team is just not good, unfortunately for him. Say that would have beat me this week. But he wasn't playing me, so we take those. Yeah, good week for Lemons. Big win, 5-6, currently in the playoff picture. Next up, myself and Preston. I'd like to think that my team played pretty well this week, other than Justin Herbert and Ricky Pearsall. Herbert getting 1 point kind of really kills my point total. And Ricky Pearsall, I took a shot on him his first week back, and I guess he just wasn't. I don't know if he wasn't ready. I guess I'd say wasn't that involved, but I'm probably. I don't know if I'll start him next week. I've got some options with Olave back, Pittman back, and all those guys, but I might make him prove it. But he was the number 1 wide receiver before he got hurt. I think that was week 4 he got hurt. So through week 3, and then I don't know if week 4 counts for that or not, but for 1 wide receiver in all football and receiving yards and all that. So not really worried about Pearsall, but it just might take a week to get back. I wanna see it. Speaking of arriving on the scene, TreVeyon Henderson, 32.3. He is back, baby. I believe a Thursday night game. And he had 3 touchdowns, all of the Patriots' touchdowns. They comfortably handled the Jets, and TreVeyon Henderson basically did it on his own. So hopefully he keeps doing it with Andre back. I'm expecting him back this week. I think he was close last week, so I would imagine Ramondre is back, but hopefully this has earned TreVeyon more work in that offense. It's a little sketchy starting him, even though he's been so good these past couple weeks. It's a little iffy starting him. Andre's back because Mike Vrabel might just say, "Hey, good work, kid. Get back on the bench where you belong." So, Gadsden had 6. It was. I mean, Herbert didn't really have any points. I want to say he got banged up in that game. Did he get hurt and come back? Maybe not. I thought I'd heard that. Maybe that was the week before. Chase Brown was good. Chase Brown has been good, man. He's been awesome ever since Flacco took over. So I was offering him out earlier this year, and nobody seemed to want him. Well, thankfully that was the case. He had over 20 points if he had 1 more rushing yard. Manthai's side of the ball, stinky. Puka was below what you expect from Puka, but fine in general. Jefferson's been bad, continues to be bad. JJ McCarthy isn't it, dude. I don't know what to do. You're Justin Jefferson up there. I guess just play him and deal with it. Mahomes, bad week, played Denver, tough match. Josh Jacobs got hurt. TBD on whether or not he'll miss this week. In my opinion, he probably will miss this week, but he should be back the following week for sure, from what it sounds like. But yeah, losing him hurt. I played Manthai in our Dynasty League this week too, and we are both, I think we're the top 2 teams in that league. If not the top 2, we're close to it. And I had Josh Jacobs. Our running back rooms are very similar in that league. I had Josh Jacobs and Breece Hall, and both of them stunk in both matchups, kind of balancing out. Don't worry, I beat Preston in both leagues, so you Manthai haters out there can rest easy. Devontae Adams, 7 points, 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. Oh, it's the old Mike Evans stat line. He's been scoring touchdowns. It seems like he is their goal line running back, which is kind of interesting. Zay Flowers on the bench. Really cares. And not much going on Preston's team. JT was on bye, so this was a great week to play Preston because if JT would have played, I probably would have lost. Let's be honest. Also a good week to play me though because Tyler Warren, my starting tight end, was on bye. Pittman and Olave are on bye. BTJ didn't play. I did bench Michael Wilson, who I picked up before this week. I ended up not going with him. I didn't really consider it with Ricky Pearsall back. I picked him up in case Pearsall did not play, and it turns out I wish he didn't play because BTJ and Pearsall were both questionable, and I didn't have another option at wide receiver. I picked up Michael Wilson thinking I'd have a good week with Marvin Harrison. Turns out I was right, but I wasn't convinced enough to play him. Dude led wide receivers 37.5 points. I just traded him to Brandon basically for free. I was going to cut him, I think, if I didn't send him to Brandon because the rest of the guys I prefer personally. But yeah, huge win for me. Puts me at 6-5, firmly in 4th place. I just got to get a couple wins here, and also a huge win for me for other people too. Cade and Nick especially. With Preston's loss here and Nick's win, he's officially in 1st place. Cade also ended up losing this week, so he didn't lose any ground on Preston, which is huge. So yeah, huge all around. Speaking of Cade. Oh, Cade won. I guess he was 1 game down before. My mistake. But yeah, huge for Cade then because he picked up a game on Preston. So now they're level. Cade's in 3rd place right now. Preston's in 2nd. That'll be interesting. A complete game for the most part on Cade's side here. Jalen Hurts was disappointing. I feel like he's been disappointing the past couple of weeks, ever since the bye. Yeah, plays Dallas this week. I think you have to play him against Dallas. So you're probably not benching him. Well, Goff plays the Giants too. Both are good starts. I think I'd probably stick with Hurts. But other than that, I mean, JSN, Nico Collins, Derrick Henry, boom. You know what? We'll put some booms in here for Cade. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, huge game. Travis Kelce, 9 catches, 90 yards, and a tud. Kicker in the defense had double digits. T. Higgins, 15. I mean, Saquon was the worst player on his team, and he had double digits himself. Solid 10 points. Not really what you hope for from Saquon, especially with 26 carries against Detroit, apparently. I did not realize he had 20 carries. Just didn't get into the end zone and wasn't super involved in the passing game. So, yeah, he didn't bust off that big run that he likes to do when he gets that kind of work. So, Detroit's tough defense to go up against. The rest of the season should be a little easier for him, especially if he gets that kind of volume. That's the most volume he's seen all year. On Brandon's side of the ball, big old Tets changed his team name too. Nice. That Photoshop job is elite, by the way, for those who haven't seen. Yeah, that's Tetairoa McMillan right there. Looking good. Probably the best he's ever looked. So, anywho, sorry YouTube. Hopefully they allow that. Lamar Jackson kind of killed Brandon here. -0.28, 2 picks, 5 sacks, no touchdowns. Browns. While the Ravens did win, it was basically on the back of Derrick Henry because the Browns kind of had their way with Lamar. Normal performance from a quarterback there, and you're probably winning the game, which may or may not have been a good thing for Brandon if he won this. He's officially in tank mode now. For a brief period of time between this game and now, team name was Tank. Got a picture of a tank, profile. But I don't know if that would have been the case. I guess if he had won, he'd be 4-7, 1 game out of the playoffs, with a decent, a pretty solid team. But Lamar is now mine. Welcome to the squad, Lamar. Hopefully you're not going to do that again. Tet McMillan, 36 points, had a legacy game, 2 touchdowns. Finally got into the end zone. Jawalin Jennings was meh. H.A. and Bijan, both studs. We all know that. And other than that, Trey Tucker, I guess, had a pretty good game for Trey Tucker. Now that he's the guy with no, Jacoby, that's his name. On the bench, Kyle Pitts stinks, and Michael Penix is out for the year now, so Kirk Cousins will be playing rest of season. You might be able to cut Kyle Pitts, but unfortunately, Drake London out. I don't know if he can, just because who else is going to catch the ball there? Darnell Mooney, I guess. Cortland Sutton was okay at best. Bo Nix was bad. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Brandon's bench just wasn't it. You started the right guys for the most part. So, that pesky quarterback. Big win for Cade here, like we talked about, and potentially a big loss for Brandon here because he's in 8th place right now. We'll look at the standings, but I'm pretty sure he is tied for last now, and there aren't that many teams to beat. And for the marquee matchup of this past week, Jake and George went head-to-head. Big pull from me, by the way. I'll toot my own horn here and say this was a big marquee matchup selection. Jake just edges the win, gets the dub over George. For those who can't read the group chat, there was a big. Well, if you can't read the group chat, you're probably not listening to this. But for those who may have forgotten over the wedding festivities, you know, there was a wedding in the fantasy league, and that usually means trades are getting made. And while there weren't a ton of trades getting made, there was one blockbuster, and that was a CeeDee Lamb Rome Odunze swap between Jake and George before the week started. Obviously, there were picks involved. I will go over the transactions for exactly what that was later because I forget exactly which picks they were. I want to say a couple of thirds might have been involved, but there were a lot of conversations between George and Jake at the wedding for those that weren't there, and it was entertaining to say the least. But yeah, so George got CeeDee Lamb. He got what he wanted. I thought it was a fair trade, a good trade for both sides. Gives George a solid keeper. George is kind of confusing me because he's in dead last. He probably should be tanking, but yet he's trading draft capital for good players. Obviously keepers, right? So now Drake London and CeeDee Lamb are probably keepers for George. And it's always good to have keepers for next year. But you know what's better than keepers sometimes is early picks to replace the fact that you don't have keepers. So TBD on how this will work out for George. But it is interesting to say the least and entertaining for the league. So CeeDee Lamb did sabotage George, playing double agent for Jake. I did not watch the end of that Dallas game, so I don't know exactly what happened, but it kind of sounded like CeeDee could have scored a touchdown and didn't. So unfortunate for George, but also, I mean, he had 17 points. Like, gonna complain about that when Khalil Shakir had 0.7, Butker had 4 with a PAT miss, by the way. If anything, Butker sold you out. That's a 4-point swing. If Harrison Butker makes that extra point instead of missing it, he ends up with 8 because a PAT miss is -3 in this league, and obviously if you make you get +1. He would have had 8 points, and you would have beat you would have beat Jake by 2. So blame Harrison Butker if you want to blame something, in my opinion. But yeah, it is easy to blame CeeDee, playing on Monday night. So Drake May was pretty disappointing too, especially for going up against the Jets. London was good, but unfortunately did get injured, I believe, in overtime when they lost to the Panthers. So it sounds like he's going to miss a week minimum. We will see how long it takes. With Penix out, he might be encouraged to miss a little more time. I think the Falcons only have 3 wins, just like George. Aaron Jones, 10 points. Rachaad White, bad. Yeah, guys were bad. And most of the guys in this entire matchup were bad, in all honesty. It's almost impressive to me that you guys can each have 20-plus point players and not break 100 points. So Aaron Rodgers, Jake's team, bad. Against the Bengals, too. I guess Kenneth Gainwell just took over. Rodgers threw for 116 yards. Did have a touchdown, thankfully for Jake. Jamar Chase was disappointing. Jalen Ramsey locked him down. He got ejected. And then Jamar Chase got a 1-game suspension for spitting on him, allegedly. Well, it is on video, but apparently he's appealing it, saying that he didn't mean to or something like that. So, regardless, it sounds like Jamar Chase is missing 1 game, so Jake will be without Jamar Chase, and he just traded away CeeDee Lamb, so his wide receiver room will look a lot weaker. Yeah, tough for Jake. Rome Odunze, the new recruit, only had 6 points this week against the Vikings. The Bears offense didn't really that well, but they did get the win. Jordan Mason, fine. Montgomery, bad. Montgomery, I don't know if you can start Montgomery, man. Not in that kind of matchup. Maybe against the Giants. A team like the Giants where you don't have to score a ton and you're expecting the Lions to be up, you can probably start Montgomery if you need to. But I think Jake knows that he's not really who you play. Tootin, debatably, might be who you want to play. Dude had 15 carries this week. Plays the Cardinals. He's healthy. Not the worst. Oh, Christian Watson had 20 points, 2 touchdowns on 4 catches. Kind of what he does. I don't know if you can really play him with confidence ever, but you can play him hoping he's going to boom. J-Mo, I guess I shouldn't skip over J-Mo. Ever since Dan Campbell took over the play calling duties, J-Mo has been unstoppable. Dude's been really good. Coming off the bye, Dan Campbell took over, and yeah, 16, 27, 22. I mean, geez, man. You've got to play him. NBA Jam rules. He's on fire. He's got 3 touchdowns in 3 games. He even had a carry last week. Yeah, you play J-Mo. He'll slot in where Jamar was, and yeah, I guess you're probably playing Rome too. You're not playing Watson over. So super. And Will Lutz, 18 points, big game from him. I guess that'll do it. Big win for Jake. Huge win for Jake if he's trying to make the playoffs. If Jake does not win the playoffs, then this was actually a painful win. There's a lot of 3-8 teams right now that might not stay 3-8, and being 4-7 would probably be a lot nicer. So, anywho, that is the end of the matchups this week. We will take a peek at the standings. We kind of talked about it a little bit as I went, but we'll briefly go over. Nick firmly on top. Also leading the league. Nope, not leading the league points for. That would be Preston, which surprises me after Preston put up like 70 points this week. So turns out Preston's team is human as long as Jonathan Taylor isn't in the lineup. Manthai and Cade 8-3 a pop. I am 6-5 on game eater. And then we have a handful of 5 and 6 and a handful of 3 and 8 team. Got Greg, Lemons, and Jake currently duking it out for the playoffs. And I would expect Brandon, Lane, and George to probably be tanking rest of the way. We have, this is going to be week 12. 1, 2, 3 weeks yet before the playoffs. So technically none of these teams are out. But they would need to win out, and at least 2 of these probably lose out unless you're Brandon. So, yeah. I don't know if I'd put it as good. And then you just get the privilege of playing probably Cade. So, we'll see. I think it's much more likely that these 4 teams here from me to Jake are duking it out for these last 2 spots, and thankfully I have a good advantage with a game in hand and a pretty solid points for. But yeah, it's definitely not a given. There's 3 weeks. And I've got Brandon this week. Should be a good matchup for me. But Brandon's team is not as bad as his standings. Joe, his record is worse than his team. Lane also on a streak. Just wanted to point that out. Alrighty. Let's do the players of the week. That was Josh Allen, top quarterback, 55.68 on Nick's team. Sean Tucker, of all people, dropped 39 points. He surpassed Rachaad White, potentially. Got all kinds of work. Looked like a monster. He was busting off long touchdowns left, right, and center. He had 39. He was a free agent. He was scooped up. We'll go over that in the transactions. He he was a free agent, which does not typically happen where a free agent running back is top scorer. Michael Wilson, 37.5 on my bench. Ray McBride, 30.5, goes back to back on top scoring players. He's on Lemons' team. Will Lutz had 18 on Jake's team, and the Pittsburgh defense, 20.5 as a free agent. Those are your best players of the week. Transactions. A pretty solid waiver wire, I would say, this week. Guess we go over the trades quick. We go back. This is the Jake George trade with CD and Rome. So George got CD in 11, 13, 14. And Jake got Rome, 2/3 and a 7th. One of those thirds is Brandon's, which should be pretty good. This one's George's, obviously. Both of these should be probably top 3 picks round. Then 7th round pick of Cade's, so a little later of a 7th. Yeah. Early draft capital for Jake. He's not used to that. Calvin Ridley was cut. Brandon and Nick traded. Nick acquired Javonte Williams and a 17th. Ray Tucker and a 7th. A little bit of running back depth for Nick. I got Lamar for an 11th, basically. Michael Wilson at a 17th thrown in as collateral. Emmanuel Wilson got scooped up for 19 fab. We will check to see if that is. I'm assuming there was competition on that. Emmanuel Wilson, assuming no Josh Jacobs this week, which is not a guarantee, should be the guy. And he looked pretty good last week when out. So I think the Packers trust him. The Browns defense plays they have a really good matchup at the Raiders. So understandable why Brandon won them for 5 fab, and I am not excited to see that. Brandon also scooped up Brock Purdy and Cam Little for some starts this week. Shedeur Sanders I did not see this. George picked up Shedeur Sanders, will be the starter. You might be better off not playing a quarterback. I know he plays the Raiders, but George, genuinely better off leaving your quarterback spot open if you're considering playing Shedeur. Other than that, Hollywood Brown got picked up, which I saw and was kind of confused. I guess he's had not disgusting past 2 that they played with the bye in between. He's an emergency start. And Sean Tucker, Brandon scooped him up this morning. He made it through waivers. I guess if Bucky's back, this is a waste, but Brandon got it for free. And if Bucky is not back, I know he plays the Rams, which is not a good matchup, but I think you can play him and expect probably 10 points. I think he did take over that backfield when Bucky is out. As far as fab goes, there was some competition on Emmanuel Wilson. The winning bid was 19. Brandon bid 8 for him and did not get him. So I guess Sean Tucker is your consolation prize. Nothing. We are going to the matchup views next. E versus Brandon. This feels like a trap game, but I should be able to get this done. Lamar plays against the Jets. Questionable per equal. Didn't practice with ankle injury. I'm expecting that he will be fine this week. Good matchup against the Jets. I'm hoping for a big bounce back week. A.J. Brown, a little bit of squeaky wheel last week. Ended up getting 11 targets. Huge. Hopefully that continues against a worse defense in Dallas and potentially Chicago over these next couple weeks. Chris Olave has been spectacular, even with what's-his-face taking over, Tyler Shuck, before the bye. So hopefully that continues after the bye, and we can get some fantasy points going in Atlanta. Ravion Henderson can hopefully electric. Chase Brown, good. Yeah, I feel pretty good about this roster, man. Rico Dowdle against San Fran, he's been awesome. Tyler Warren's back. Brandon Aubrey, potentially the best kicker. Brandon's got Brock Purdy, who has been really good in all games he's played this year. I think he has 20 plus in every, just missed 20 points, but basically every game he's played this year, he's got 20 points or better, which is not many games, but Carolina's an okay matchup to do it. Might be a little tough. Monday night, we'll see. But a good quarterback play, especially a good consolation prize for losing Lamar. Tet has been very good lately. Michael Wilson. It sounds like Marvin Harrison's probably going to miss another game from what I remember hearing. So, Michael Wilson, you should be able to play with confidence. I don't know if I'd expect the same as last week, but good player. Bijan, obviously, I fear. Sean Tucker, I don't really fear against the Rams, but he has a lot of upside that most players don't have. Getting off the waiver wire and starting. Kyle Pitts, no Drake London, like I mentioned earlier, so probably start him with confidence, although I feel like 11 points is a little too high with Kirk Cousins throwing the ball. I don't know. Maybe it's fine. On Jennings. Anybody on the bench? Not really. The Broncos are on bye, so Brandon. Operable. I don't think I'm going to change my bench regardless of who's playing. I would like to keep Ricky on the bench. I think this is the lineup I'm going to go with no matter what, unless it's obviously my lineup doesn't play. So I'm going to go with myself. Win for obvious reasons. Hopefully I can get it done. Next up, Nick and Cade. This is a big one, and it is marquee matchup. The marquee matchup, ladies and gentlemen. First place Nick going up against third place Cade. If Cade gets a win here, this could mean big things for the first round bye. I don't think Cade will necessarily pass Nick because the points for isn't that close. But it could give Preston an opportunity to move up, and obviously it would put Cade on the same record as Nick, giving him an opportunity to pass in the following weeks. So this is a big matchup here. Cade currently projected to win by Yahoo. Let's see what we got going on here. Josh Allen, obviously you're starting, but he is playing in Houston, which is probably the best defense in the NFL right now. It's scary. Obviously, you're playing Josh Allen, but on a Thursday, short week, I'd temper my expectations. And Josh Allen does have a way of making you doubt him and then blowing up, and vice versa. Not doing necessarily all that well in easy matchups and dominating difficult matchups. So he might be fine, but if it's me, I do have Josh Allen in a league, and I'm a little nervous about it. So Emeka Egbuka has been a little cold lately. It's hot and cold. He's got that one big week, but then other than that, it's been a little disappointing. It seems like the Bucks are not quite clicking, but you're hoping that he bounces back. You're probably playing him with confidence. I don't think there's anybody else on his team he can really, nobody else is going in that lineup. So George Pickens, kind of in a similar role to Josh Allen, where Philly has been locking people down as far as wide receivers go. Their defense is very good. George Pickens is in your lineup. He's playing, but you're a little scared. McCaffrey's a dog. DeAndre Swift and Javonte Williams are probably both in your lineup. Obviously, if Bucky is back, I'd be throwing him in, and I think I'd be throwing him in over Swift and not Javonte. I know Swift has been good this year, but he's a little banged up, and Pittsburgh's run defense, I guess, has been pretty good against fantasy running backs for the most part, according to Yahoo. George Kittle playing. So all in all, not super in love with Nick's team. I think it's got some tough matchups. Cade's side of the ball, Jalen Hurts, you're playing against Dallas, even if he is a little scary. JSN, of course. Nico, of course. Derrick Henry, of course. Saquon, of course. Well, good matchups there. Nice. Travis Kelce, of course. T. Higgins, oh baby, 18.5 projection. Has he really been doing that? I guess. Yeah, I mean, New England's defense is pretty solid, I would say at least. You're definitely not benching T. Higgins. This projection might be a little high for me. I guess there's no Jamar Chase, so Yahoo's giving him a bump. I don't know if that it'll give him more targets, right? But I think that's worse for Cincinnati as a team. There might be fewer scoring opportunities. T. Higgins, he can have a big play, so it's probably fine. But I think I don't know if Jamar being out really bumps T. Higgins that much for me. his ceiling is always there, and it's always 35-ish points. I think it might just raise his floor. I don't think T. Higgins can have one of those like sub 5-point games. Yeah, you're playing him for sure. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the bump there. Feels a little steep. Romeo on the bench can play in emergencies if you need him, which he does not. Manuel Wilson on the bench, you're not playing. Are on the bench, you could maybe play, but you're not going to do that. Yeah, I think these are the lineups, and I think I'm going to take Cade in this one. So hopefully that works out for me. Fab. Greg and George going at it this week. George's team projection for 81, and he does have a lineup set. So, he's starting Shedeur. I see. George is in tank mode. Good for him. Going for those draft picks now that he's traded them all away. Oh man, I see why he picked up Shedeur now. I should have realized that earlier. So, Greg 5 and 6. This should be a scheduled win for Greg, which is absolutely humongous for Greg. Baker against the Rams is terrifying, and I would start somebody else if you have one. Daniel Jones against the Chiefs might be equally as terrifying, though. Dealer's choice. It probably doesn't matter. I guess I'd probably go with Baker. Sunday Night Football, I guess, should outscore Shedeur. Can you imagine Shedeur has a legacy game and George ends up winning this? Oh, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Hollywood versus Shakir. Wow, I'd take Shakir there. Oh, Houston. Oof, that is a tough matchup. I still think I'd take Shakir, but I'd probably bench both of them. Joey Myers and Chris. Dude, Craig's team stinks. What is going on? This is the week to play George. Holy man. Is Godwin going to play this week? Fibula was limited. Practice last Wednesday for the first time since week 5. Ramping up his activity level. If Godwin plays, I would not be playing him. Oh, I understand. Greg has to play Godwin if he is. Okay, well, Greg might be fishing for a wide receiver on the waiver wire because I'm not confident in Chris Godwin playing. Wow, this is legit a team. Wow. George really had. I see. He needs Shedeur Sanders to stink in this one because Jahmyr Gibbs and Kyren Williams are both smash starts, and you're happy with that. Brock Bowers has the Cleveland matchup. Obviously, you're playing him though. ETN against Arizona, assuming he is good to go, is also a good play. Those 4 guys are going to have to carry Greg to the promised land because I'm not confident in the rest of it. And in all honesty, Aaron Jones could burn Green Bay. Charbonnet could get a touchdown or 2. Kenneth Gainwell, if what's his face for Pittsburgh isn't playing, Kenneth Gainwell's a smash start against the Bears. Kobe Myers was pretty good last week. Yeah. Okay, George should lose this game, but he has sneaky upside here. I'm gonna pick Greg to win, but yeah, Greg could absolutely lose this game if George was trying. If George played CD and Drake May, I would easily take George. But he probably will not, so we're gonna go with Greg. However, this might be closer than I think George's projection is probably pretty accurate, but Greg's projection should probably be lower. Gonna need Jahmyr Gibbs. Manti and Lemons. Lemons in what is essentially a must-win here, going up against one of the best teams in the league with Jonathan Taylor back. Going up against the Chiefs, but you do not care with Jonathan Taylor. Holmes, Puka, Jefferson. Yeah, I mean, Manti's entire lineup is basically locked in. The only one I'd consider, I don't know what he has for other options at running back. Baltimore's defense, while supposedly gives up a ton of points to the running back position, their defense has been much, much better down the stretch. And Manti does not care. Running back better. Unless, if Josh Jacobs plays, I would play Josh Jacobs, but I don't. So you're going to be, I'll say, stuck with Breece Hall, but I don't. Bad option. I just think might have better options. Dallas Goedert, really not who you want to be playing ever. Draft. Devontae Adams will be good for a touchdown. Yeah, I'm going to take Preston to win this. Genty and Trey McBride are both great starts. James Cook, tough matchup. Genty might, you know what? I take that back. Genty is not a great start. Going up against Cleveland, I know he's at home, but it's not easy. If Vegas plays how they played last week against the Cowboys, who definitely do not have the run defense that the Browns have, he could be in for another like 6 carry game. Could be a problem if he doesn't get in the end zone, get a bunch of targets like last week. Yeah, this is a Preston win. This one shouldn't really be that close. I would have to hit the bed here. I'd honestly, I'd be playing. Oh, I'd be playing Judkins over Slayton. I'd consider if gun to my head, Judkins or Genty, who scores more fantasy points this week, I'd probably go Judkins. Tough. Doesn't really matter. Lane and Jake. So if Jake wants to make the playoffs, he has to win this. If Jake is losing to Lane of all teams, no offense. Actually, you know what? Offense to you. Your team stinks. If Jake loses to Lane, he can kiss his season goodbye because he's not beating anybody. Aaron Rodgers currently in Jake's lineup, projected for 12. I would sure hope that. Oh man, Jake hopes Jackson Dart plays because if Jackson Dart plays, they're playing him. And in all honesty, I'd probably be picking up Joe Flacco or Jacoby Brissett. I pick up Jacoby and play him over both those guys in a heartbeat. He's got some stinkers in there. I can't tell if Jake is trying to tank or if his team is just bad. His team is actually just as bad, I think. I would not be playing Jordan Mason against Green Bay, but I don't think he has a choice. I'd be playing Bijal Tootin, sure, over J-Mo's in. Yeah, I mean, this is not the lineup of a team. This is the lineup of a team that's tanking, but when you look at the bench, I don't think it is. Wow. You should be tanking. I'm gonna. So if Jaylen Warren plays, he's a good start. He's what I was thinking of. He did not practice on Wednesday. I'm not confident that Jaylen Warren is gonna play. Who does Lane have as a backup? Nobody. Okay. Both these guys. Bam Knight, I guess, is probably who I'd pick up and play, assuming he plays. If Bam Knight doesn't play, Michael Carter's probably a great play because without him and DeMercado. Yeah, if it's one of the Arizona guys for me, I don't know. You could play Tajay Spears too. I'd rather play the Arizona guys because they have that same floor, but they have a lot more upside. Man, I want to say I want to take Lane here, which feels like an upset because of the record, but you look at the Yahoo projection and I think it kind of just makes sense. Lane needs a tight end and play. Dalton Kincaid is out. Lane needs some help. I think regardless of that, I'm pick Lane to win because basically strictly because of Amon-Ra. In all honesty, on Diggs against Cincinnati game, yeah, he's been awesome. I said to cut him, so I'm gonna go with Lane here. I guess that'll do her for the matchups. Both these teams. Wow. Worst two teams we've looked at so far from top to bottom. Brandon's team, obviously tanking. George tanking. No, Brandon's team is not the team of a tanking team. George's team is tanking. Brandon's team should probably be tanking. But low key, Brandon has a better chance of making the playoffs than Jake does, in my opinion. So. Alrighty, I guess we can head to the roasts. So I am gonna mix up the roasts a little bit. I don't know if this will be disappointing for all, but I'm gonna not roast every team that loses going forward. I'm starting to run out of material. You guys all the same guys just keep losing, man. You guys all stink. I'm gonna roast teams that deserve to be roasted. Okay. if you lose, if you're Brandon this week, right, losing to Cade, putting up 130, I don't think you really deserve to be roasted in that situation. I know this doesn't deserve. I guess we'll go from there. Alrighty, my soundboard up. Here we go. Preston, of course, gets roasted for putting up 73. Preston, I guess losing to me once in a week wasn't enough for you, so you went ahead and lost to me in Dynasty too. I knew that you could not handle being the #1 seed.
Boom. Roasted.
Trash. Lane, your team loses twice as often as the actual Jags, and we both know that that is saying something. So, you get...
Boom. Roasted.
And I guess last and probably least, George. I hope you realize now that CD is actually a big NBA fan, and before he was traded, he took Jake to win. He had to finish the job.
Boom. Roasted.
So, with that being said, gentlemen, good luck to everybody this week, except for Brandon. So, I will sign off here, and thank you all for listening. Catch you next week, hopefully with a living, breathing Jake Jorgensen. But who knows? See you guys next week. Goodbye.